I've often said that the rights of women and girls are the unfinished business of the 21st century. And at CGI, we've announced the Women and Girls Equality focus for our work to bring people together, such as we're doing here today, to find ways to make commitments to assist more young women to have the education, the training, the skills, the dreams to go as far as their hard work and talent will take them, to provide more opportunities for economic empowerment, because as Carol just said, if we removed all the barriers to women's full participation in the economy across the world, it would dramatically increase the gross domestic product of each country as well as the global situation. You know, we know that many of the participants in CGI, some of whom are here today, have committed themselves to opening these doors and creating these opportunities. But we also have to recognize that there is pushback. This is not just an open door that we help people walk through. Unfortunately, there are forces at work that want to keep that door closed, that don't see the benefits of women's full participation in society. As Carol said, don't see the benefits of diversity in the private sector or the public sector. And sadly, despite their significant contributions to economic security and prosperity, many women and girls in many places in the world do face barriers to inclusion. Globally, women on average doing the same jobs as men in the same parts of the workforce average about 24% less in income. They do find more jobs in lower paying parts of the economy. They are certainly underrepresented in boards of directors or senior leadership roles in the corporate sector. A lot of the progress that had been made was set back during COVID. In fact, the World Economic Forum issued a report after COVID saying that the time frame for women having equality in the workforce had been put back by about 100 years. So we have great opportunity on the one hand, but we have to be honest about the mindsets and, to still some extent, legal and regulatory barriers. For example, last year, women-led ventures in the United States and Europe received 2% or less of venture capital invested. That's almost hard to believe, that 2% for 50% of the population for women founders, women-led organizations. And I've talked to many people in the venture capital world, and there's always some excuse. And there's always some judgment about women's business presentations that is very much rooted in long-standing bias and beliefs. And of course, we know that 1 in every 10 women lives in extreme poverty, yet the economies of which they are a part could not function without their unpaid work. I remember years ago traveling through Africa with a group of activists, business people, even some economists, looking and talking about what could be done to try to provide greater economic opportunity. And everywhere we went, we saw women working. We saw women working in markets. We saw them, working in the fields. We saw them carrying wood on their backs. We saw them working. And yet their work isn't counted in our economic assessments. That is unpaid work in the so-called informal sector. But if it were to stop, not just families, but communities and societies would pay a big price. So I think there's so much that can be done, and I think it's particularly fitting that we have this discussion here in Bulgaria because throughout Europe, particularly throughout the EU, you are outperforming the rest of the world for women represented in parliaments and in corporate positions. Large European countries have 30% female non-executive directors, and with the EU adopting the Women on Boards Directive in 2022, that number will only increase. I've served on corporate boards way in my past, and I think it is fair to say that I was sought out originally because the corporate leadership wanted some different perspectives. And I do think diverse groups of people make better decisions on balance. And bringing those different perspectives together requires effort. It doesn't happen by accident. Bulgaria has been making significant strides toward gender parity. And so I think there are a lot of lessons we can learn, but also challenges that we should be confronting. And we can start by placing a greater value on women, on our work, everything we bring to the workplace. And we're lucky today that we're going to hear from some very accomplished women who are working every day to make a difference. We will have a very rich conversation, and we are hoping that the people you'll see throughout today's program will inspire you to think about what you might do in your business, in your office, in whether the public or the private sector, what can be done to take advantage of the opportunities that are there. And we also want to emphasize the role that making commitments at the Clinton Global Initiative provides. As Kirill said, they have made a tremendous commitment to do more to try to prevent and treat the terrible disease of malaria, which sets back so many people, but also therefore their societies and their economies. That's the kind of big bet that could have long-lasting impact. So whether it is supporting women entrepreneurs, increasing women's participation on corporate boards, helping women gain more experience so that they're prepared for these opportunities, these are all CGI commitment makers that you will be hearing from. And I'm especially pleased that we're going to have a chance to start our program with a one-on-one conversation with President Osmani from Kosovo, a woman who has risen through the political ranks of her own country to become president with the largest vote that any person, man or woman, has ever received in Kosovo, helping to guide that new nation forward to deal with so many of the challenges that it faces. Someone who truly does represent the opportunities that can be seized by women who are not only themselves well prepared and ready, but within a context where their contributions are recognized and appreciated. So again, I thank you all for being here today for this important series of events, and I thank Kirill very much for bringing us together to have this conversation. Thank you.